Yeah, it really is. John, see, this group of friends came here to enjoy themselves in the sunshine in this very popular spot for swimming. Even today, we've seen people in the water just 24 hours after two men lost their lives. Now, eyewitnesses say the two victims weren't jumping off this bridge into the water. They were, in fact, swimming down below. Well, earlier today, many who knew them came to pay their respects. Yesterday, this is where two young men were swimming in the sunshine. Today, it's where their tributes lie.
I was with them a week ago and I just can't believe it's gone and didn't even get to say goodbye.
Still coming to terms with what happened here, they'll never forget the moment they heard the news.
And I was driving back to Swindon and I heard it was really bad. I couldn't believe it. I was literally in my tears. First thing was going to his family, telling them that his brother's never coming home. Then going to his girlfriend, telling them as well. It was really hard.
They were trying to just get away from the lockdown and they were key workers, they all worked together, and so they just come out for a day out and this good time turned into a sad time.
Emergency crews were called after reports two people had got into trouble in the water. Many tried to help, others watched in shock. Toby is 12 years old.
One of them was already under by the time we could see. And then we saw one of them, their head popped up and then went down and then didn't come back up again.
Toby's family say they think one man was swimming, lost his footing and fell beneath the surface as the water became deeper. Then another friend went in after him, but also got into trouble. Two more friends then tried to save them. With four now struggling in the water, eyewitnesses say a bystander jumped in and managed to rescue two.
I don't know who he was, but he was incredibly brave, and he was distraught, of course, afterwards. But he did an amazing job. You know, he rescued 2 out of 4.
Avon Fire and Rescue crews have also commended this stranger's actions, but advised members of the public against risking their own lives to help others. They also want to remind people about how dangerous this water can be. But for regular swimmer Ben, it's a risk he's willing to take.
There's a couple of bits where you can see the water's really swirling around. I feel fairly confident managing the risk that's here.
Emergency services are warning people to be aware about the risks of wild swimming, hoping no one has to feel the same pain these friends do now.
I wish I was here, you know what I mean? That's how I'm feeling, like I wish I was here to do something, but that's what hurts the most.
So the Arnolfini behind me is an arts gallery, and on the bottom floor they have a cafe and a bar. That is run by the Bristol Beer Factory, and they're offering this site as an address for homeless people to use when they register to vote. Now, you don't actually need a permanent or fixed address to get onto the electoral register, but if you're homeless, you do need to give details of where you spend most of your time or the address nearby. Now, for many, even knowing they can still vote when they're homeless has come as a huge shock, but what I found is that it's also come as a huge comfort.
We're heard then, we've got a voice, do you know what I'm saying? You know, okay, we've not got a house, do you know what I mean? You know, but you're given a chance to vote, you know, to make a difference in the world.
Lee has been living on the streets of Bristol for the past 3 years. Before then, he voted in every election, but he didn't realise he still could while homeless. With just 5 days till the deadline to register, volunteers have taken to the streets, encouraging those living on them to sign up.
There are many barriers to voting for homeless people, and just having somewhere as a nominated address is one of the many. It's really important because if they don't vote, these are the people who are going to be hit the hardest.
People like Lee, who says he can't wait to tick that box and have his say.
That's my voice heard then, do you know what I mean? That's my name in the ballot box, you know, it means a lot.
Secretly installed in the early hours of this morning, a sculpture capturing a historic moment. The toppling of Edward Colston's statue was seen by millions and made headlines across the world. After it fell, Jen jumped up and took its place, an image now immortalised.
I think it's an honour, I think it's great, but I don't think we can lose sight as to why that statue is there. So putting me to one side, there's a reason why that statue is there. And it's all about change.
I remember actually coming home from the first phase of chemotherapy. It really hit me then much harder than when I got the diagnostic itself. Yeah, I couldn't do nothing with my kids.
This is hard on Jules. He's the patient. Jules was saying, you know, he's pretty laid back. He doesn't think about everything, but you do. How are you?
Do you know what? I don't have time to think about how I am a lot of the time with 2 young children, but I think I also want to remain as normal as possible for the children. I don't want them to be impacted by if I feel sad a certain time of the day, I can just take myself off for 10 minutes, have a cry and come back and deal with the kids. I don't want them to see me upset or know that there's... Sorry. I feel helpless because I can't give him what I've got. It's not going to match him. So I just hope that people from his ethnical background, they need to come forward and help their communities in this way. They do it in so many other ways, naturally, and probably if they were aware that it was a problem, they would be willing to do so. So it's just getting the message out there to them and saying, we can solve it, we just need you to be aware of how to solve it.
We need to protect the future. The only way to do that is to donate.
I was burnt, I was bruised, I had severe beatings from individual members of my family.
Kieran says from a young age her family tried to prevent her from becoming, as they call it, too westernised.
Our behaviour, the way we composed ourselves, everything had to be done in a very particular way. We were forced to wear traditional clothes.
What were traditional clothes for you? Salwars?
Yeah, and with a scarf and a camise.
Sangeeta Lal is here. Sangeeta, what more can you tell us about these tests?
So they're offering 2 coronavirus tests, both costing £120 each and both to be rolled out over the next few weeks. So the first one is a 48-hour pre-flight test. So that's been approved by multiple airlines to be taken by passengers before they catch a flight. Very similar to the government one. You take a swab, it gets sent off to a lab and comes back around 48 hours later. It's the second test that we want to talk about today because that's the one where Boots is saying you'll get results within about 12 minutes. Nothing is sent off to a lab. It's all done in store and all on a device that's been developed by a company called Lumira. Now, the crux of this test, Boots say, is to offer peace of mind because it's being offered to anyone without symptoms. But that's the controversial bit because industry experts I've been speaking to say that if that comes back as positive, that tells you a lot. But if it comes back as negative, they say it's almost meaningless. All that tells you is that at the time of the test, you were negative. But if you were carrying the virus and it didn't have enough time to present itself, you could be a positive case the following day. And that's the concern. There's also some concern that it could be encouraging people who may think they have the virus to leave their home, go to a shopping centre and potentially infect others if they came back as positive. So the government advice is if you have symptoms, go onto the government website and book a test. But overall, adhere to the social distancing rules.
All right, Sangeeta, thank you.
Well, David, one thing that we should be very clear about is no vaccination has been given approval yet. What today's announcement means is that the NHS has found Ashton Gate to be a suitable location to roll out a vaccine if and when we get one. So as I understand it, over the next few weeks, military personnel will be moving in here and having a look at the stadium's concourses as a location where they could figure out where people could wait, where they could get vaccinated and where they could then move on. But where are we actually at with a vaccine? Well, over the past few weeks, we've heard positive news of how effective those trials have been. That data has now been passed on to a regulatory body to review how effective they could be and which ones are best. That process usually takes years, but it's been accelerated because of the global impact of the pandemic. And now scientists are hopeful we could be seeing a vaccine approved by the end of the year, perhaps by Christmas. If that is the case, Ashton Gate will be a hub where thousands across Bristol could receive their vaccines. Yeah, Jonty, it's a real blow for staff who've been waiting months to finally reopen. The Somerset and Dorset pub, as you say, closed last night after a customer told staff they'd tested positive for the virus, but apparently weren't showing symptoms when they came to drink here. But this is the second pub to close since the restrictions were eased. Last week, the Lighthouse pub just round the corner from here had to close after a customer tested positive for the virus, and through the track and trace system, that's meant a nearby takeaway also had to close. That takeaway is due to reopen tonight, and actually the Lighthouse pub is due to reopen on Monday. So in total, that pub would have been closed for about a week. A slightly different story for the Somerset and Dorset pub, which closed last night and is actually due to reopen in a few days' time. Earlier I caught up with the bar manager here, who told me that they are doing everything they can to get the pub safe and deep cleaned, but that they're devastated the virus has spread here. Yeah, John T, well, this crash caused huge delays here in August last year. I'm actually just south of where that police pursuit ended, but it caused hundreds of motorists to be stuck in their cars for about 7 hours, and this is why we now have dashcam footage of that police pursuit. And on the left of your screen you should be able to see a black Ford. That's who police were chasing, and as you see, he swerves across all 3 lanes and on his way back hits a police vehicle with so much force it flips multiple times. Well, if we slow that right down, on the right of your screen now you should be able to see a car with flashing lights. That's the police vehicle which landed on its roof, trapping the officer inside, and actually later caught fire. Well, the driver of that Ford was able to swerve out the way but was later caught by officers. Now, she arrived at Bristol Temple Meads on train about an hour ago, we believe. She's not on just yet. We've got a bit of music to keep people going. Of the march, it got pretty busy a little bit earlier. That's because Greta joined us, and everyone just basically wanted to see her. Everyone converged to the front of the march, which is now moving down. If you just follow me, we'll just keep moving because we are right at the front of the protest.
Sangeeta Lal reports.
They arrived last year and soon became the village's colourful companions. Now, though, for some, they've overstayed their welcome.
They've actually fallen through the carport.
While on holiday, Sue and Graham were told they had some unwelcome guests.
Well, twice they've fallen through the carport into the garage. We haven't had it repaired yet. We've
still got peacocks, haven't we?
But not for much longer. Recent complaints led police to issue a warning the birds would need to be removed and rehomed, but if this couldn't happen, they might be, as they put it, humanely dispatched, something no one here wants to see happen.
They're colourful, they're harmless, and they're nice.
They're beautiful and I like to admire them, but I think that something needs to be done.
And something has. Thanks to this community, the birds now have a new home in their adopted village.
We've been in correspondence with the police, and they have actually agreed that the home that we have found is going to be vetted by them because it's more suitable than the home that they've got, and we're going to try and work together as a group and hopefully get a positive outcome.
Soon they'll leave the rooftops to roam in fields nearby. For many, catching a glimpse brightened their day through lockdown, bringing a bit of colour during these dark times. Sangeeta Lal, ITV News.
Out in the wilds here, it's like walking through your allotments, and all we've done is collect all the produce from our allotment. So we're going to have a mixed leaf salad and a wild mushroom sushi as well. And then we're going to have...
All sounds very posh.
It is very posh, and do you know what? I'm so pedantic about the presentation of wild foods. You know, it's important that it has to look as good as what it tastes and taste as good as it looks.
Mm-hmm. Do you think there are sort of prejudices about wild foods?
Yes, I do. I think that a lot of people think that if you haven't paid for it or it's not in plastic, it's poisonous, inedible, and it's a danger to you, and that's not the case.
Good evening. 2 men from Devon are missing after the fishing boat they were on sank off the coast of Sussex. A major operation was launched after a distress signal was noticed by the Coast Guard this morning. One man who was on board the scalloping vessel from Brixham, named Joanna C., was found clinging onto a lifebuoy and taken to hospital. Crews have been searching all day for the other 2 men. Sam Blackledge reports. And it's been a pretty grey day, hasn't it? Unfortunately, though, it doesn't look like that rain is going anywhere anytime soon. Kate Haskell has your forecast.